So, strings. Strings are one of the most important ingredients to almost every program you'll ever make. Why? Well, the odds are likely that at some point in deployment, or even during development, some human will have to interface with your application. And with that, your program needs to communicate with them somehow. And it's highly likely that using strings will be how you go about doing that. Strings, on the most basic level, are a string of characters together in a series, hence the name string. You can write any word in any language. You can write any number or even any code, slang, key, you name it, making strings incredibly powerful. And that's pretty much all that's to strings. They're really easy to get your head around. And there are a few things that are really good to know while using them, so let's take a look at a few examples. Now, we're going to do these examples using two different languages because I think it can be really helpful for you to see how they compare and contrast. And plus, you'll pretty much learn two languages at once. So on the left is the language C# using the IDE Visual Studio, which should interest you if you want to do Windows development or if you want to make games using a popular game engine called Unity. And on the right is the language Python 3 using the IDE Visual Studio Code, which should interest you if you want to get into more general programming or data science. Alright, so here I have two brand new console projects. And if you don't know how to make a new console project in either C# or Python or both, be sure to check out the video in the description. It's called How to Install an IDE, and at the end of that video I'll show you how to do that. Alright, so the first thing I want to get into is some basic string syntax. So first I'm just going to delete these lines. They come stock with your brand new C# project. And then I'm going to initialize a string. I'm going to call it A just for example. And then if you want to assign a value to a string, you have to use double quotes and then you can type in whatever string you want and then semicolon at the end. And as far as C# string syntax is concerned, that's all you really need to worry about. It's just the double quotes. Make sure they are double quotes. Now over in Python, we have just a little bit more freedom. So I'm going to initialize a string here and then I'm going to assign hello to it. And as you can see, I use the double quotes just like we did in C#, but you can also initialize a string and assign hello with the single quotes as well. Both of these will be counted as a string within Python. And just to prove that, I'm going to do print A and then B. Here we go. And there you have it. Hello and hello. Both are counted as strings. In fact, today you're going to find that this freedom right here, the double quotes and the single quotes can be assigned to a string, is quite nice. You'll see. And so the next thing I want to talk about is the fact that strings are arrays of characters. And to demonstrate that in C# over here on the left, we're simply just going to do a console.writeLine. And then I'm going to do A, and then I'm going to use the brackets and just put a 0 in between them. This is an element within the A array. Again, strings are an array of characters. So I'm just asking for the 0th element from the A string array, which this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, 3, 4. Arrays always start on 0 in pretty much every programming language. And so now just to prove that, I'm going to hit the start button up here to run it in. Oh, I always forget. I have to do console.read key. This just makes sure that the terminal stays open until we press a key. I'm going to hit start and then bring this over here. And you see that we have the 0th element in the A array. That is, again, the string of characters, which is H. And it's quite flexible. We can put any that we want in here. Let's do exercise. So if we want to get 0, we can simply count. This is 0, and then E is 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we put 4 in here, then when we hit the start button, you'll see that it prints out an O. In fact, this technique is what a lot of game developers use when they're trying to create some chat system that pops up one character at a time. They'll pretty much write out the entire dialogue here like hello, welcome to my store. And then they will write some function that will take in a string and then we'll grab every single character and then we'll print one out with a pause in there, like a second pause, probably a lot less than that, like a 1/10 of a second pause, then print the next one. 1/10 of a second pause, print the next one, so on and so forth. Just a little add-on there. And over in Python, I'm gonna get rid of the B. We're just gonna keep the double quotes convention to match with C#. Get rid of the B here. And then I'm actually just gonna do a print. Let's do 0 first. Hit the play button, and you'll see we get an H. And again, we're gonna do a 4, so we can get the O. Hit the play button, and oh, I forgot I gotta save it. And then hit the play button, and then we have a O right there. Pretty much the same in both languages. Again, just remember that all strings are just an array of characters. Next thing I want to talk about is using the addition operator with strings. And to demonstrate that, over here in the left with C#, I'm just going to remove this back to how we had it. Remove this from the right, and I'm just going to come down here and do a plus equals, that's the addition operator. These two right here, when you see plus equals, that is an addition operator. Plus equals, and we just add a character exclamation mark to it. And then I'm going to print that. You'll just see that's going to be hello, and then they're just going to add a little exclamation at the end. Start that up, bring it over here, and voila. Now, one cool thing about this process is because at the fact that the string A is just an array of characters, using the addition operator pretty much just says, take that string of characters and add this character to the end of it. However, the cool thing is you aren't limited to only adding characters. Again, single quotes denotes a character, double quotes denotes a string. So we could add to the end of this world, for example. Now, of course, we have to change these single quotes to double quotes to let C# know that this is now a string. And what this is going to do is it's now going to add every single character in this character array, or this string. It's going to add every single character to this string. And just to prove that, I'm going to hit start, and then I'm going to bring this over, and voila, hello world. All right, now over in Python, I'm just going to restore this back to its original state. Then we do a plus equals exclamation mark. Now, of course, this is just going to take the hello string, the A string, add an exclamation point to it, and it's going to print that out. If we hit the play button to confirm, come down, and that's exactly what we got. Now, I want to again reiterate that Python doesn't care if you use double quotes or single quotes for characters or strings. So unlike C#, we could just put world right in between of two single quotes, and it will, when we hit play, it will print that out for us without giving us any errors or any problems whatsoever. That's just one of the benefits to using an interpreted language. If you want to use single quotes or double quotes, that's pretty much up to you, your own discretion. But just to keep everything consistent, we're going to use double quotes for strings as well for this lesson. Now, before we move on, you might be wondering, oh, well, if we can do an addition operator, what if we use like a multiplication operator or a subtraction operator or a division operator? Well, unfortunately, the addition operator is the only arithmetic operator that you can use on strings, so don't get too happy. Now, escape characters are actual characters, so I'm not going to go too deep into them for this lesson, but they're pretty important to strings, seeing as strings are an array of characters. But let's just look at a few of them real quick. So I'm just going to add a few of them here. I'm going to do \n, and then I'm going to do \t, I'm going to do / single quote, / double quote, and then \\. Now these are, 5 of the most popular escape characters. The first one, this is new line, this is a tab, this is single quote, this is double quote, and this is \. And I'm going to just print it out this to show you that what they do. Hit the start button, and then bring this over, and so you have a new line, which is the \n, and then a tab, which is \t, and then you have the single quote, which is / single quote, and you have double quote, which is / double quote, and then you have \, which is \. And these bad boys are handy because they help you do some things that are probably not intuitive when you first start coding. For example, like how do you press enter when you have just strings, or how do you use double quotes if strings require double quotes to initialize, right? So for example, I'm just going to get rid of all of these. Just to give you a quick example. I'm going to use the escape character double quote at the end and the escape character double quote at the beginning, and this is going to look like hello in quotes. I'm going to hit the start button and then bring this over, and there you go. You have escaped the syntax of strings by using the escape character. Again, I went over this pretty briefly in this lesson, but if you want to know more about that, check out the lesson I did on characters, and I go a bit more in depth about them. So I'm just going to restore this back to how it was before I move on to Python. Now over in Python, the syntax for the escape characters are the exact same. I'm just going to get rid of this line and then just add them just as we have in C#. \t, single quote, double quote, and then \\. Make sure to add that double quote back. And yeah, there you have it. One cool thing about this is actually a Visual Studio Code edition is that it will change the color of the escape characters in your strings. That's pretty handy. I'm just going to print that out. We should get similar results. And there you have it. All right, so the next thing I want to get into is interpolated strings. Now, there is no reason for a man to have so much love for a syntax, but I absolutely love interpolated strings, and here you'll love it too. Here's what's going on. Okay, so say we wanted to deliver some message, right? I'm gonna get rid of all of this and do like hello name, how are you, right? Now let's say you didn't want to have actual name here. You want to have like some user inputted name, right? So let's create a new string for that name. Initialize string, make it name equals Jabril's. Right. So how you would do this normally is you would segment this string, you would do this, and you would delete this here, and you would do plus name, and then plus the string again, right? So you have three different strings, but you have to break it apart to put the string variable here, and then you stitch it back together by plussing the last half of the string. I mean, listen, it works. It'll get the job done. But when you have to write a lot of strings like this, over time, it just gets really tiring and you just get frustrated. But that is where interpolated strings come into play. First, just to prove to you that this works, I'm just going to hit the start button and then I'm going to bring the screen over here and bada boom, it works fine. But with interpolated strings, now we no longer have to segment the strings anymore. We can bring this back together as one string and then simply come to the beginning of our string and add the $sign. This $sign denotes that the string is now interpolated. And what that allows you to do is in the middle of strings, you can add brackets. And inside those brackets, you can add variables. And so now when I print this out, check this out. This is so exciting. Now you have the same exact thing. It's just that you didn't have to break up your string. I love interpolated strings. So you can imagine if you have like a really long text or something like that, and you have a lot of variables that you need to inject into that text, you can simply just turn your string into an interpolated string and just, add the brackets and your variables all over the place. And it saves so much time and it's just beautiful. I love it. Now over in Python, it's pretty much the same thing. I'm just going to set this up. I'm going to say hello name, how are you? And the only difference in Python though is instead of a $sign, you're going to use an F for interpolated strings. And so now, we have to initialize our name variable. This is going to be Jabril's. And so now we can do the same thing, use the brackets, and bada boom. Hit play just to prove it to you, and hello Jabril's, how are you? So beautiful, I love it. And so the final thing I want to go over is just a few handy functions that come with the string data type. And to demonstrate these handy functions, I'm going to get rid of this line. It's no longer needed. And the first one I'm going to show you is a lowercasing function. So we can just do name equals name dot to lower. And C# to lower is the method. And you just call that, add the semicolon. Then we come on here and then just print out the name. And what's going to happen is it's going to take the name and then it's going to do, it's going to lowercase every single character within the name. Hit start just to prove that. Bring the window over here and you'll see that it has turned this into all lowercase letters. This can be quite handy when perhaps you're creating like a database of users or something like that and you don't want duplicates. Then no matter what name they pass in to your database, you'll lowercase it every single time and then just do a match against those. That's one of the most common use cases for that function, but it's always good to know just in case you need it. Next, I want to show you the reverse of that, which is an uppercasing function. And instead of starting over completely, I'm just going to add on to our console logging. So under the first right line, I'm just going to do reset name back to equal Jabrils. And then we're going to do name equals name dot to upper is the function in C#. And then I'm just gonna copy this, Control C, Control V, and now it's gonna first print to the console it in all lower and then all upper. And to prove that, I'll hit the start button and bring it over, and voila. Next up, a really useful function that comes with the string data type is the split function. So I'm going to reset name. I'm gonna say name equals, I'm gonna do a little bit different this time though. Jabrils with a comma in the middle, because we're going to use that as our character that we're going to use to split the string apart. So with this, because we're splitting the string into two, we need to have an array instead. So I'm going to say string and then add the brackets, let the C# know that it's an array, and I'm going to call it name2 equals, and then this we're going to do name.split. And then we'll pass in the character that we want to use to split, and that's going to be the comma. And then we can simply just come down here and do console.writeLine and name2. And then we want to do the first element of that array, which is 0. And that is the copy and paste. And then we're going to print the second array, element from that array, which is 1. And to prove that it is going to split this, I'm going to hit start here. And then I'm going to bring the window over, and you see that it split the name based on the comma, Jabrils. Beautiful. And the final handy function I want to show you is the contains function. So I'm just going to do name equals I like the spaceship. I don't know. I like the spaceship. And then we need a boolean, because contain returns a boolean. So boolean, we'll just say does, and that equals name dot contains, and then we need to pass in a string here, and then we're gonna say the. Does this contain the word the in it? And then simply we can just do console.writeLine does, and then just to prove that this does return a true value if it has the word the in the string, I'm going to hit start and then bring the window over, and you can see the last right here, it returns a true. And yeah, contains is just another really powerful function that comes with the string data type. Really good use cases for that, and always good to know. And over in Python, it's just a little different than how they do it in C#. So we have our name here. We're going to do name equals name dot lower. And we're just going to do print name here. I'm going to print that out. Press the play button to show you that it lowercases the name, just as we expect. And then the next one, I'm going to do name again equals Jabrils, and name equals name dot upper function, and then print name again. I'm gonna print that out, and you'll see that we have all lowercase and then all uppercase. And now this next string function is going to really demonstrate how Python has a bit of an edge over C# in this regard. So we're going to do name equals the same, jab, and then rils. And then here, all we have to do is name equals name dot split. We're just reassigning the name, and it will instantly turn this into an array. That easy, reassign it. And then all we have to do then is just do print name. And to prove that, I'm going to hit the play button, and there you have it, Jabrils. Yeah, personally, this is one of my favorite reasons for using Python is because of the ease of doing stuff like this versus over in C#, how we had to have our string name and we had to initialize a new string array to hold the new string array we're about to make and then print them out one at a time. This is just like 3 lines of code, easy, simple. One of the advantages that I love using Python. And the final one is the contains function. So we're just going to do name equals I like the space ship, and then come on down here and we'll do does, initialize a boolean called does, and then we're going to do name dot contains. I'll explain why this looks weird in a second, and then we can print does. All right, just to prove that works, gonna press play, and it does not work. And that is because, of course, I forgot to save it. So hit save and then hit play, come on down, and there you have it, true value. I really just want to pause for a second here and emphasize that Python really doesn't care if you use double quotes or single quotes. As you see, we're using double quotes here for the name and single quotes for the string that it contains, and it still returns true. It just interprets. Now, the reason why this part looks so ugly is because this is what's called a wrapper method. Or a method wrapper rather, and it's not important for you to understand what that term is yet in your early days of programming, but essentially what this is, Python doesn't want you to use this way. How they prefer you to use it is if you were to go if and then the in name. So if the string the is in name, then we'll do print does. Python really prides itself on, being a language that's kind of close to how we actually, use language as humans. So this is how they prefer for you to use this method rather. And just to prove that, we're gonna hit play. We'll make sure I saved it. Hit play, and we should see 2 trues, which we do. And that does it, guys. That's pretty much everything that you need to get started with programming in terms of strings.